First, a thought experiment. Imagine if we made contact with aliens and they were sick at melee. They drop off a suit that you can wear that gives you access to an interface that tells you objectively how good you are at melee down to the millisecond. You could wear it throughout your daily life and see it go up as you improved and down as you regressed. This would be the most powerful improvement tool in existence. You could do all sorts of experiments to find the optimal training regimen. You could try different warm-up routines, experiment with caffeine dosages, sleep schedules, and even what to eat and drink on game day. You could figure out what combination of solo grinding versus CPUs, grinding drills, and playing unranked was best. You could even use it while consuming guides, videos, and melee scripture to see if it was helping your play. But most importantly, you would feel insanely motivated to practice. With every practice session, with every rep in the lab, you would see that number go up, even if just by a sliver. Knowing if you're improving, and exactly by how much, is powerful and motivating. Unfortunately, my attempts to reach out to aliens haven't panned out, but while I wait to hear back, can we make do with what we have today? You'd expect so. After all, we are a competitive community, so we have so many methods of measuring player skill. Why not use tournament placings? Well, I tried that. I went to the same weekly 10 times over the course of 6 months, and my placings were all over the place. I swear on my life that I'm a pretty consistent player. I have my pre-game warm-up routines, I don't tilt mid-game, and I actively practice in between events. And yet, despite my consistent practice making me think that I should be steadily improving, my measured skill looks, well, interesting. There's so much more that goes into a single tournament placing than player skill. Placings are affected by all sorts of random wacky factors, like who decided to show up, upsets ruining brackets left and right, and your top seed forgetting to set an alarm and getting DQ'd. But tournaments aren't the only feedback systems that are notoriously all over the place. Rankings voted on by panels are always going to have some level of human interpretation added to them. Even set counts and win-loss ratios are heavily affected by the fact that players play wildly differently from day to day. A valid follow-up question would be if an objective MMR system, via Slippy Ranked, would solve all of this. It would definitely be an amazing step in the right direction, but even that would have noise from internet connectivity, character matchups, and biases like whether the system prioritizes consistency over peaks. But despite how flawed feedback systems are, they're actually not all that bad at what they do. If we compare my placings to that of Rishi, who goes to the same weekly, there's a pretty clear difference between my results and his, even accounting for variance. And ranking systems might be biased, but all of them seem to consistently say Rishi is a top player and I am a garbage can. So we're left in an interesting spot. These feedback systems measure skill, but they all are uniquely skewed in some way. We could just disregard them and focus on how they're flawed, but signal on how skilled we are is still incredibly valuable to us. So let's go through a few strategies of extracting signal from noise. What happens if we just measure our skill lots of times? If you go to a major and don't make it out of pools, it's hard to say if that's exactly your skill level, or if you're experiencing some amount of random noise. So just go to 1,000 majors and average your result. And just forget that you're burning a lot of time, money, and patience between hotels, flights, and paying some random guy to give you another Firefox angled notch that's not the reason you're drowning in pools. So instead of spending all of this money, what if we just improve around the bounds of noisiness? There might be some degree of randomness, but no amount of bracket luck is going to make me win a super major. So if I were to improve enough, I could go to a tournament and see if I make it out of pools. If I go from going 0-2 at a major to getting out of pools at another, I must have improved. This seems foolproof, but let's think about the repercussions. It can take months or years to improve this much. Does this really mean that we can't get any signal on our skill in the meantime? This leads to my favorite strategy, which is creating our own feedback system. It's great when we can turn a long string of losses into a win, but that doesn't happen very often. If we want to get granular feedback about our improvement, we need to get creative. So instead of taking wins and losses at face value, let's think about what improvement actually means. The fundamental question is, for any game I play, did I play better than a past version of me would have? This question is hard to answer without a time machine. Who knows how a past version of us would have played today? But I've found I can get pretty close just by taking notes. Lots and lots of them. I've made it a habit to just dump my stream of consciousness into a notepad after every practice session. And now, these journal entries serve as evidence of my improvement. I can point to specific days and see how my understanding of the game has grown. These small wins may seem meaningless, but they're tangible improvement, and we need to learn to appreciate them. External systems are blunt. They are noisy and only notice when we improve by large margins. When we rely only on external sources of feedback to say that we've improved, we end up feeling like we're going nowhere. But it's incredibly important to learn to appreciate small wins as they happen, and to have faith they will show up in our tournament results with time. I found that this has created a much healthier mentality for improvement. Now, winning any particular match is nice. Making it further in bracket is nice. But ultimately, improving on whatever I'm focusing on at any point in time is all I care about. Until I get good enough to beat my bracket demons, I'm going to lose to them every time I play them, even if I inject 6 cans of Red Bull into my veins. But that doesn't mean I'm not improving. It's a hard but worthwhile skill to see improvement as more than just wins and losses, but also as losing less hard or winning harder than before. You should feel free to get even more concrete with the metrics you make for yourself. Personally, I've had mixed results by being too rigid. I find that it can work well for tech skill goals, but that they're tough for mentality goals. Making your own metrics is awesome, empowering, and even more important in this age of quarantine, where every tournament is getting a cease and desist from Nintendo. But it's ultimately not a replacement for tournaments or other ranking systems. Every feedback system is unique in the signal it gives, and if we want to improve as quickly as possible, we need to take advantage of all of them. When I take notes and focus on a micro part of my play, I get great signal with very little noise. But Melee is made up of billions of optimizable skills, and at the end of the day, even if I'm getting 1 million intangibility frames on my ledge dash, if I'm drowning in pools, what's the point? On the other hand, going to tournaments and getting ranked on a PR is a great way to get a macro sense of how good we are as players. But we have to remember how biased and noisy these can be. We treat self-improvement as a pure, sterile environment where it's just you, the game, and your opponent. But even for a 20-year-old 1v1 game, there's so many extra factors to deal with as competitors. Self-improvement is not about avoiding bias or flawed feedback systems, but interpreting them creatively to inform our own models for our improvement. Because after all, wait, what? What the fuck?